The breaking point, Rafael Ortega stared at his phone in disbelief, the early morning sunlight filtering through his kitchen blinds. Elena's text message was brief but devastating. "Sorry, can't watch Mateo today. Family emergency." He glanced at the clock. 6:45 a.m. The Westbrook project presentation was at 10 p.m., and he had exactly 0 backup childcare options. Since Camilla's passing 2 years ago, he'd carefully constructed a precarious balancing act between his work as an architect at Meridian Design Group and raising 8-year-old Mateo alone. Today, that balance was collapsing. "Papa? Is Elena coming?" Mateo asked, his small frame appearing in the doorway. Dark curls tousled from sleep, dinosaur pajamas rumpled. Rafael forced a smile. "Change of plans, buddy. How would you like to see where Papa works today?" Mateo's eyes widened. "Really? The place with all the building models?" "The very same," Rafael nodded, mind racing through contingency plans. "But there's a very important meeting, so you'll need your quiet activities." 45 minutes later, they hurried through Meridian's gleaming lobby, Rafael clutching both his portfolio and Mateo's hastily packed backpack. The receptionist, Jasmine, raised an eyebrow but smiled kindly at Mateo. "Someone's joining the design team early," she remarked. Elena canceled. "It's just for today," Rafael explained, voice tight with anxiety. "The Westbrook presentation—" "Go on up." Jasmine nodded understandingly. "I've got some drawing paper if he needs more later." The 12th floor office was already bustling when they arrived. Rafael quickly settled Mateo at a small table in the corner of his workspace, setting up colored pencils, books, and his tablet with headphones. "Remember our deal?" Rafael whispered. Mateo nodded solemnly. "Super quiet, like ninjas." His colleague Thomas glanced over the partition, his expression shifting from curiosity to barely concealed disapproval. "Bring your child to work day was last month, wasn't it?" "Childcare emergency," Rafael explained shortly, turning back to his computer. The morning progressed with mounting tension. Rafael shuttled between finalizing presentation slides and checking on Mateo, who was remarkably well behaved, drawing elaborate spaceships and occasionally whispering questions. The whispers started around 9:15. "This isn't a daycare," he overheard Diane from marketing say. "Some of us have actual deadlines. Single parents, always expecting special treatment," someone else muttered. Rafael's hands tightened on his keyboard, but he said nothing. He couldn't risk his position, not with a mortgage and Mateo depending on him. At 9:45, as Rafael was gathering his materials for the presentation, Harrison Weber, the project lead, approached with a frown. "Ortega, what's with the kid?" "Director. Palmer will be at this presentation. We can't afford distractions." "He'll stay here quietly. I'll have Jasmine check on him," Rafael replied, stomach nodding. "This is completely unprofessional," Harrison said, "just loud enough for nearby colleagues to hear." This isn't how people get promoted at Meridian. The implied threat hung in the air. Rafael felt heat rising to his face, but before he could respond, a crisp voice cut through the tension. "What isn't how people get promoted, Mr. Weber?" The entire office fell silent. Vivian Palmer, executive director of Meridian Design Group, stood by the entrance, elegant in a charcoal suit, her silver-streaked black hair pulled back in a sleek knot. Her reputation for exacting standards was legendary. Her dark eyes moved from Harrison to Rafael, then settled on Mateo, who looked up with wide-eyed curiosity. Harrison cleared his throat. "Director Palmer, we were just discussing presentation. Protocol? Rafael has brought his son today." Vivian approached Mateo's table, her expression unreadable. "And who might you be, young man?" "Mateo Ortega, ma'am," he replied with surprising poise. "I'm being super quiet so Papa can work on his important buildings." "I see," Vivian said, examining Mateo's drawings. You've got quite the imagination for design yourself. She turned to Raphael. I believe we have a presentation to attend, Mr. Ortega. Bring your materials and your insights. They're what matter most. As Raphael gathered his portfolio with shaking hands, Vivian added, Your son can join us in the conference room. I'd be interested in his perspective on our building models. The shock on Harrison's face was worth 1,000 words. Whispers and shadows, the Westbrook presentation proceeded with unexpected smoothness. Raphael found his professional rhythm despite the whispers that had followed him into the conference room. Mateo sat quietly in the corner, occasionally glancing up from his drawing pad to marvel at the architectural models displayed around the room. As Raphael concluded his portion of the presentation, an innovative approach to sustainable materials, for the mixed-use development, he caught Director Palmer studying him with an intensity that made him nervous. Not disapproval exactly, but something penetrating and evaluative. Your integration of local materials reduces both environmental impact and construction costs by 17%, she noted, tapping her pen against her notepad. That's the kind of thinking Meridian needs more of. Harrison shifted uncomfortably beside Raphael. We should note that these estimates are preliminary and... They're conservative estimates, Raphael interjected, surprising himself with his boldness. The savings could potentially be higher once we finalize vendor relationships. Director Palmer's lips curved slightly upward. Not quite a smile, but close. I look forward to seeing those numbers, Mr. Ortega. After the meeting, Raphael quickly gathered his materials, eager to return to his desk and check on Mateo, who had been escorted back by Jasmine halfway through the presentation. As he organized his notes, he realized Director Palmer had lingered. Behind! A moment, Mr. Ortega, she said. Raphael braced himself for the reprimand he'd been expecting all morning. Your work today was exemplary, she said instead, particularly considering the additional responsibilities you're managing. Thank you, Director. I apologize for the unorthodox circumstances. My regular childcare... She raised a hand, stopping him. No explanation necessary. I didn't become director of this firm by being oblivious to the realities of life. She paused, her expression softening almost imperceptibly. Your son seems remarkably well-adjusted. He's resilient, Raphael said, a hint of pride breaking through his professional demeanor. After his mother died, we had to learn to adapt. Something flickered in Director Palmer's eyes. Recognition, perhaps. But it was gone in an instant. Adaptation is an underrated skill, Mr. Ortega, in architecture and in life. She glanced at her watch. The board meeting is in 15 minutes. I expect your complete proposal on the Westbrook sustainability features on my desk by Thursday, as she walked away. Raphael felt the weight of judgment lifting slightly from his shoulders. Back at his desk, Raphael found Mateo chatting animatedly with Zoe Kim, a junior architect who had recently joined the firm. She was showing him how to create a simple 3D model on her tablet. Your son has a great eye for proportion, Zoe said, smiling up at Raphael. Maybe a future architect? Astronaut architect? Mateo corrected solemnly. I'm going to design moon, houses. Raphael ruffled Mateo's hair. Thanks for entertaining him. No problem, Zoe replied, her expression turning serious as she lowered her voice. Don't let Harrison get to you. Some of us actually think it's impressive how you manage everything. Throughout the afternoon, Raphael noticed a subtle shift in the office dynamics. While Harrison and his close associates continued to exchange meaningful glances whenever Mateo asked a question or needed assistance, others, Zoe, Jasmine, and even gruff senior architect Bernard, found excuses to stop by his desk, offering Mateo small tasks or showing genuine interest in his drawings. At 4 o'clock, Raphael's phone buzzed with an email notification that made his heart sink. The subject line read, Westbrook Project Team, Personnel Adjustments. Everything okay, Papa? Mateo asked, noticing his father's expression. Just work stuff, buddy, Raphael assured him, quickly scanning the email. To his surprise, it wasn't. The demotion he feared. Instead, Director Palmer had added him to the core design team for Westbrook, replacing one of Harrison's longtime associates. As Raphael processed this unexpected development, a notification appeared on his computer. Meeting. Request, Director Palmer's office, tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. The whispers around him intensified, but their tone had changed. No longer simply judgmental, they now carried notes of curiosity and speculation. Did you see? Palmer added him to the core team. After bringing his kid? That's either incredibly lucky or Palmer never makes decisions based on sympathy. She must see something in his work. Raphael kept his head down, focusing on completing his tasks while helping Mateo with a homework assignment. He was acutely aware that he was being watched, not just by those who disapproved, but now by those trying to understand what Director Palmer apparently saw in him. As they prepared to leave that evening, Harrison stopped by Raphael's desk. Interesting development with the team restructuring, he said, his friendly tone belied by the coldness in his eyes. Palmer must be feeling charitable today. Or perhaps she values innovative approaches to sustainability, Raphael replied evenly, helping Mateo pack his backpack. Harrison's smile tightened. Just remember, Raphael, Meridian isn't built for distractions. We all make choices in life. As Harrison walked away, Mateo tugged on Raphael's sleeve. Is that man angry because I was here today, Papa? Raphael knelt down to his son's level. No, mijo. Some people just forget that being good at your job and being a good parent aren't opposite things. On their way out, they passed Director Palmer in deep conversation with Bernard near the elevator. She paused mid-sentence as they approached. Good. Evening, Mr. Ortega, she said with a nod. And goodbye, Mr. Mateo. I hope you found our architectural firm educational today. It was cool, Mateo replied earnestly, especially the 3D printer. Can we get one, Papa? Director Palmer's unexpected laugh echoed in the hallway. An architect who knows what tools he wants. You're raising him well, Mr. Ortega. As the elevator doors closed, Raphael caught a glimpse of Harrison watching from across the office, shadows playing across his face. Unexpected allies, Raphael arrived early for his meeting with Director Palmer, having dropped Mateo off at school with promises that Elena would pick him up that afternoon. The childcare emergency had been resolved, but the ripple effects of yesterday's events continued to spread through Meridian Design Group. Director Palmer's office occupied the corner of the 14th floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Unlike the modernist minimalism that characterized most executive offices, hers contained unexpected touches, architectural models from around the world, photographs of remote structures, and bookshelves filled with volumes on design philosophy and anthropology. Come in, Mr. Ortega, she called as he hesitated at the doorway. She gestured to the chair across from her desk. I appreciate punctuality. Thank you for seeing me, Raphael began, especially after yesterday's irregular circumstances. Director Palmer studied him for a moment. Mr. Ortega, do you know why I added you to the core Westbrook team? I assumed it was based on my sustainability proposal. Partially, she nodded. But more importantly, it was because of how you handled yesterday's situation. You faced a personal challenge, found a solution, maintained your professional standards, and didn't allow others' judgment to derail your work. She leaned forward slightly. Those are leadership qualities, Raphael. He blinked, surprised by both her assessment and the use of his first name. The Westbrook project needs fresh perspectives, she continued. It also needs someone who understands that buildings aren't just structures. They're spaces where real people live complicated lives. She handed him a folder. These are the parameters for the community center component. I want you to lead this aspect of the project. It needs to be functional, beautiful, and accessible to families. Raphael accepted the folder, mind racing. This is a significant opportunity. It is, she agreed. And to be perfectly transparent, not everyone on the board or the senior team will be pleased with my decision. Harrison has been vocal about his concerns regarding your personal situation. Raphael tensed. My performance is exemplary, she finished firmly. But perception matters in this industry. Which brings me to my second point. She handed him another document. I'm implementing a pilot program at Meridian. Emergency child care provisions, flexible work arrangements, and a family support network. Raphael scanned the document in disbelief. This is comprehensive. It's overdue, Director Palmer corrected, and I'd like you to help shape it based on your experience. As Raphael left her office, his mind was still processing this unexpected turn of events. In the hallway, he nearly collided with Bernard, who was carrying an armful of blueprint tubes. Heard about your promotion, the older architect said gruffly. Good choice. Palmer sees the big picture. Thanks, Raphael replied, surprised by the support from the normally taciturn man. Bernard hesitated, then added, My daughter's an ER doctor, single mom to my grandson. People like Harrison don't get it, how you balance it all. Before Raphael could respond, Bernard continued down the hallway, leaving Raphael with the realization that he might have more allies than he'd thought. Back at his desk, Zoe and two other junior architects, Devin and Prisha, were waiting for him. Is it true? Prisha asked eagerly. You're leading the community center design for Westbrook? Raphael nodded, still somewhat dazed by the morning's developments. That's fantastic, Zoe said, her enthusiasm genuine. The firm needs more people with your perspective. And we want in, Devin added. If you're building a team, we want to be part of it. Raphael looked at their eager faces, realizing that in the midst of yesterday's judgment, he'd missed seeing the quiet support that had been present all along. I'd be honored to have your input, he said. Let's start brainstorming after the team meeting. As the day progressed, Raphael noticed a shift in the office dynamics. While Harrison and his close associates maintained their distance, others began stopping by Raphael's desk to offer congratulations or express interest in the new project direction. During lunch, Raphael received a text from Elena with a photo of a smiling Mateo at the park. A weight lifted from his shoulders, knowing his son was safe and happy. As he was responding, Jasmine approached his desk. Director Palmer asked me to give you this, she said, handing him a business card. It's for the corporate childcare service she's contracting for the pilot program. They offer emergency backup care. Raphael turned the card over in his hand. This is moving quickly. Jasmine smiled. Between us, she's been pushing for family-friendly policies for months. Your situation yesterday just gave her the leverage she needed with the board. By mid-afternoon, word had spread throughout the EE office about the new initiatives. The reactions were mixed. Excitement from younger staff and parents, skepticism from others who worried about shifting priorities. Harrison cornered Raphael in the break room. Quite the champion for change, aren't you? His voice was low, but several people nearby paused to listen. Some of us have dedicated our careers to maintaining Meridian's standards of excellence. Raphael met his gaze steadily. And some of us believe excellence includes supporting our team's whole lives, not just the hours they spend at their desks. A convenient philosophy for someone in your position, Harrison replied coldly. It's a human philosophy, came Director Palmer's voice from the doorway. She stepped into the break room, her presence immediately commanding attention. And one that Meridian is officially adopting, starting today. She handed Harrison a folder identical to the one Raphael had received earlier. The board approved the pilot program unanimously this morning. I'll need your implementation plan by Monday. As Harrison struggled to maintain his composure, Director Palmer turned to address the gathered staff. Meridian has always prided itself on innovation in design. It's time we applied that same forward thinking to how we work. Her eyes met Raphael's briefly, and he saw something there he hadn't noticed before. Not just approval, but a kind of kinship. She understood struggle and adaptation in ways he was only beginning to comprehend. As she left, conversations erupted around the office. Raphael found himself surrounded by colleagues asking questions about the community center design and offering ideas for the family support network. For the first time since Camila's death, Raphael felt the isolation that had defined his professional life beginning to crack, allowing new connections to form in the spaces between work and family. Spaces he'd previously navigated alone. The blueprint. Challenged 6 weeks after the fateful day Raphael brought Mateo to work, Meridian Design Group was a changed environment. Director Palmer's family support initiatives had rolled out with surprising smoothness, thanks in part to Raphael's practical input and the enthusiasm of younger staff members. The dedicated quiet room, originally intended for parents with children in emergency situations, had proven useful for everyone needing focused work time. The flexible scheduling options had improved productivity across departments. Even the most skeptical partners had been silenced by the positive press coverage and client feedback. Yet beneath the surface of progress, tensions simmered. Harrison. Weber had implemented the required changes with technical precision, but obvious reluctance. His inner circle had become increasingly isolated, clinging to traditional workplace boundaries and quietly undermining the new initiatives whenever possible. Raphael, meanwhile, had thrown himself into the Westbrook Community Center design with a passion that surprised even him. His team, Zoe, Devin, Prisha, and now Bernard, who had requested reassignment from Harrison's group, had developed a concept that challenged conventional community space design. "It's radical," Bernard admitted during their morning review session. "Integrating childcare, senior services, and creative workspaces in a single flowing structure." "That's precisely the point," Raphael replied, section of the holographic model floating above their conference table. "Communities aren't segregated by age or function in real life. Why should their spaces be?" Zoe nodded enthusiastically. "And the rooftop garden transitions seamlessly into the solar array, form and function working together." Their discussion was interrupted when Director Palmer entered, accompanied by an elegant woman Raphael didn't recognize. "Good morning," Director Palmer said. "I'd like you all to meet Josephine Tran, CEO of Westbrook Development Corporation." The team scrambled to their feet as Raphael's heart rate accelerated. The client wasn't scheduled to review designs for another 2 weeks. "Ms. Tran requested an early look at our progress," Director Palmer explained, her expression giving nothing away. "Particularly your community center concept, Raphael." Josephine Tran stepped forward, her calculating gaze sweeping over their model. "I understand you're taking an unconventional approach." Raphael took a deep breath. "We believe the community center should reflect how people actually live and interact, rather than imposing artificial separations." For the next 30 minutes, Raphael guided Ms. Tran through their design concept, explaining how each element responded to community needs identified during their research. His team interjected occasionally with technical details and research findings. When they finished, Ms. Tran circled the model silently, her expression unreadable. "It's certainly not what I expected," she said finally. Director Palmer's posture tensed almost imperceptibly. "It's better," Ms. Tran continued, a smile breaking across her face. "This is exactly the kind of innovative thinking Westbrook needs to differentiate itself in the market." The tension in the room dissolved into relieved smiles. However, Ms. Tran added, "I have concerns about the practical implementation. The integration of these diverse functions will require careful planning, which is why we'd like to make this design the centerpiece of our presentation at next month's Urban Development Conference," Director Palmer said smoothly. With your permission, of course. Ms. Tran's eyebrows rose. That's ambitious. The conference is only 3 weeks away. My team can deliver, Raphael said with quiet confidence, ignoring the fluttering panic in his stomach at the thought of such a tight deadline. After Ms. Tran departed, Director Palmer turned to Raphael. That was a calculated risk, but it paid off. She's fully committed now. 3 weeks is tight, Bernard muttered. We'll need to work overtime. Which presents a challenge for you, Raphael, Director Palmer acknowledged. Given your family situation, before Raphael could respond, Zoe stepped forward. We can establish a rotating schedule. Some of us can work late while others come in early. With video conferencing, we can collaborate regardless. Exactly the kind of flexible thinking our new policies were designed to support. Director Palmer nodded approvingly. Make it happen. As the team dispersed to begin their accelerated timeline, Raphael noticed Harrison observing from the hallway, his expression darkening as he turned away. The following weeks passed in a blur of intense work and creative problem-solving. Raphael found himself grateful for Meridian's new childcare provisions and the understanding of his team when he occasionally needed to adjust his schedule for Mateo's school events. One evening, as Raphael was reviewing structural calculations, at home after Mateo had gone to bed, his doorbell rang unexpectedly. Opening the door, he was startled to find Director Palmer standing there holding a portfolio. I apologize for the unannounced visit, she said, but these revisions to the community center specifications couldn't wait until morning. Raphael invited her in, suddenly conscious of his modest apartment with Mateo's toys scattered across the living room. I was reviewing the presentation materials, Director Palmer said, seemingly unperturbed by the domestic chaos as she spread documents across his dining table. The narrative needs strengthening. The innovation is clear, but we need to emphasize the practical benefits. As they worked, Raphael found himself sharing insights about community needs that came directly from his experiences as a single parent. Director Palmer listened attentively, occasionally offering perspectives that revealed her own deep understanding of work-life challenges. You never mentioned your sister, Raphael said when she referenced raising her younger sibling. A shadow crossed her face. Olivia, our parents died when she was 12 and I was 24. I was just starting my career in architecture. That must have been incredibly difficult, Raphael said softly. It was, she acknowledged. Which is why I recognized what you were doing with Mateo that day, balancing impossible demands without complaint. Their eyes met, and Raphael felt an unexpected connection, a mutual recognition of shared struggles beneath their professional exteriors. The moment was interrupted by Mateo's sleepy voice. Papa? Is someone here? Director Palmer smiled as the boy appeared in his dinosaur pajamas, the same ones he'd worn that pivotal day at the office. Hello, Mateo, she said. I'm sorry. We woke you. You're the building lady, he said, recognition dawning. With the cool models. Vivian, she said, offering her hand solemnly. My name is Vivian. Are you helping Papa with his moon buildings? Mateo asked, climbing onto Raphael's lap. Earth buildings this time, she replied seriously. But they're very special ones. As Raphael carried a sleepy Mateo back to bed, he realized something had shifted. Director Palmer, Vivian, was no longer just his superior. They had become something else. Allies, perhaps, or possibly friends. When he returned, she was gathering her documents. I should go. We both have early mornings tomorrow. At the door, she paused. Your presentation for the conference is excellent, Raphael, but I think we both know this project has become about more than just buildings. As she walked to her car, Raphael wondered exactly what she meant and why her words left him feeling both unsettled and strangely hopeful. Foundations of change. The Urban Development Conference hummed with energy as architects, designers, and developers from across the country networked in the grand ballroom of the Eastland Hotel. Raphael adjusted his tie nervously, scanning the crowd for familiar faces. "You look like you're about to face a firing squad, not present a revolutionary design," Bernard commented, appearing beside him with 2 glasses of sparkling water. He handed one to Raphael. "Drink. Breathe. You've got this." "There's a lot riding on this presentation," Raphael said, accepting the glass gratefully. "Which is precisely why Palmer selected you to deliver it," Bernard replied. Speaking of whom, Vivian Palmer approached them, striking in a deep blue suit, her silver-streaked hair arranged in an elegant updo. For the past 3 weeks, Raphael had been seeing a different side of her, not just the formidable director, but a mentor with unexpected warmth and insight. "The Westbrook executives are seated front row center," she informed them. "Josephine Tran has brought her entire board of directors. No pressure," Raphael murmured. Vivian's eyes met his with quiet confidence. "Remember why this design matters, Raphael. Not just for Meridian or Westbrook, but for the communities who will live and grow within these spaces." Her words centered him, as they had increasingly done during their late-night collaboration sessions and early morning meetings. What had begun as professional respect had evolved into something deeper, a connection built on shared values and mutual understanding. As they made their way to the presentation area, Raphael spotted Harrison with several Meridian partners near the stage. The senior architect had been noticeably absent from the final preparation phase, his opposition to the community-centered design becoming increasingly passive-aggressive. "Quite the audience," Harrison remarked as they approached. "Let's hope our innovative approach doesn't alienate the more traditional clients." "Innovation with purpose isn't alienating," Vivian replied coolly. "It's inspiring." The lights dimmed, signaling the start of Meridian's presentation slot. Raphael took his position at the podium. The familiar flutter of nerves transformed into focused energy as he began speaking. "Architecture has traditionally separated our lives into distinct spaces: work, family, recreation, education, as if these aspects of human experience exist in isolation," he began. "But as someone who has navigated these artificial boundaries every day as both a professional and a parent, I can tell you, real life doesn't respect these divisions." For the next 30 minutes, Raphael guided the audience through the Westbrook Community Center design, emphasizing how each element responded to actual community needs rather than conventional assumptions. He shared research data alongside personal observations, technical specifications alongside human stories. As holographic models materialized above the stage, illustrating the flowing spaces and integrated functions, Raphael caught glimpses of the audience's reactions. Josephine Tran leaning forward with interest, development executives taking rapid notes, architecture students recording every detail on their tablets. "This isn't just a building," Raphael concluded. "It's a reflection of how we actually live, messy, interconnected, and beautiful in its complexity. It's a space that acknowledges we don't stop being parents when we work, or professionals when we care for our children. It's a design that recognizes strength in integration rather than separation." The applause that followed was immediate and enthusiastic. As Raphael stepped back from the podium, he saw Vivian's approving nod, Bernard's understated thumbs up, and the beaming faces of his team. The remainder of the conference passed in a whirlwind of congratulations, questions from interested developers, and meaningful conversations with other architects facing similar challenges in balancing design innovation with practical realities. By evening, exhaustion had set in. As the conference attendees dispersed to various networking events, Raphael slipped away to call Matteo and check in with Elena, who had graciously agreed to watch him during the conference. He found a quiet terrace overlooking the city, the setting sun casting long shadows across the urban landscape. As Matteo chattered excitedly about his day's adventures, Raphael felt a profound sense of contentment. For the first time since Camilla's death, he felt he was succeeding at both aspects of his life, not perfectly, but authentically. "He sounds happy," Vivian said softly as he ended the call. She had approached so quietly he hadn't noticed her arrival. "He is," Raphael nodded, putting away his phone. "And so am I, surprisingly." "Not surprising at all," Vivian replied, joining him at the balustrade. "You've created something remarkable, Raphael. Not just the design, but a new way of working at Meridian." "We created it," he corrected. "Your vision made it possible." "Perhaps," she acknowledged. "But it took your lived experience to make it real." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the city lights begin to flicker on below. "Josephine Tran has approved the community center design without revisions," Vivian said finally, "and she's recommended Meridian for 2 additional Westbrook phases." Raphael exhaled in relief. "That's fantastic news." "It also means organizational changes," she continued. "I'm establishing a new division focused on community-integrated design. I want you to lead it." He turned to her in surprise. "That's a significant promotion." "With significant challenges," she added. "Harrison has made his opposition clear. Some board members remain skeptical. You'll be navigating complex territory." "Not unlike the past few months," Raphael observed with a wry smile. "Indeed." Vivian's expression softened. "Which brings me to a more personal matter. Our working relationship has evolved in ways I didn't anticipate." Raphael felt his heart rate quicken. The connection between them had grown increasingly difficult to categorize, deeper than mentorship, more complex than friendship. "If you accept this position, those boundaries become even more important to define," she continued carefully. "For the sake of professional clarity." "And if I wanted to explore those boundaries differently?" Raphael asked, surprising himself with his directness. Vivian's gaze met his steadily. "Then perhaps we should discuss that possibility away from professional contexts. Dinner, perhaps, with Matteo, of course." "He'd like that," Raphael said softly. "He talks about your cool buildings constantly." "High praise indeed," she smiled. "I should warn you, my relationship with architecture has always been more straightforward than my relationships with people." "Relationships are like good design," Raphael replied. "They require adaptation, flexibility, and recognition of human complexity." Her laugh was warm and genuine. "Using my own architectural philosophy against me." Below them, the conference. Attendees streamed out of the hotel toward waiting transportation, their conversations and connections continuing into the evening. "Whatever happens between us personally," Vivian said, her voice taking on the certainty he'd first heard in her office months ago, "Meridian is changing. The success of this project proves that we can maintain excellence while acknowledging the fullness of our humanity." "Foundations for a different future," Raphael nodded. "Precisely," she agreed. "Now, shall we join the others? I believe your team has planned a celebration." As they walked back inside, Raphael reflected on the unexpected journey of the past few months, from the desperate morning with a canceled babysitter to this moment of professional triumph and personal possibility. The challenges weren't over. Harrison's resistance, the complexities of a new division, the delicate exploration of his connection with Vivian, and always the responsibility of raising Matteo well, all these would require continued navigation. But for the first time since becoming a single parent, Raphael didn't feel he was facing these challenges alone. He had built something more significant than an innovative design. He had helped lay the foundation for a community where work and life could strengthen rather than diminish each other. And in that integration, he had discovered a blueprint for his own future. Complex, connected, and unexpectedly hopeful.